This is the story of two men, Chris and Ari, busted for indecent behavior at a Microsoft conference. Their punishment? A community service show on Microsoft VisualBasic.net. That's right, VBTV presents Chris and Ari's Cheap Show with guests Visual Bucky, Betty and Veronica, Mikey Biggs, and of course, Head in the Box. And now your hosts, Chris and Ari.
How we doing? How you doing, man?
Good to see you again, man.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Welcome to VBTV, your technical resource on the web for VisualBasic.net content. This is more like a technical webcast on steroids. We have got the best in technical content on VB.net. We have got demos. We have got special guest stars. We got it all to you. And we're coming at you live from the sunny capital of the country, Redmond, Washington. That's right. That's right. Chris, why don't you give our viewers the scoop on why we're doing VB in the first place?
Sure. At Microsoft, we do a lot of technical conferences throughout the year, including Microsoft Tech Ed, the Professional Developers Conference. But we know that a lot of you either can't get out or won't get out. So we decided to take some of the great content from those conferences and bring it directly to you at your desktop.
Now, in terms of what you can expect from the show, in addition to demos, great technical content, today we're going to give you an introduction to VisualBasic.net. So we're going to talk about the language. We're going to talk about the .NET framework. We've got some special guest stars, including Betty and Veronica. We have got Big Daddy Mikey Biggs, and of course, we even have our own favorite little happy redneck, Visual Bucky. He's going to teach y'all a thing or two about VB. Alrighty, well, I guess without any further ado, you want to go ahead and kick this thing off?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
DJ VB, why don't you take it away?
Do it.
DJ VB, my friend, you are looking good. I am digging that hair, man.
Yeah, you know.
Looking pretty, looking
You've been
pretty.
up all night partying again, haven't you?
All night long, and I got to thank you guys for going all out on the shirt for me.
No expense was spared, my friend. No
That
expense
isn't
was
And check
spared.
this, check this.
What you got? Oh,
Nice. Very
The
nice.
flashbacks, man. It's just, I'm kidding.
Very nice.
Have a great show, guys.
Thank you,
Are
my
you going to be in
man.
Vegas later on in the week?
Whoa, yeah.
Tell you what, why don't we go ahead and get right into the show? This is the first segment that we like to call Geek Speak.
Object orientation, implementation, interface, parameterized constructors. I'm gonna start throwing up here in a second.
Okay, all right. Well, I tell you what, let's start off by taking a step back, talking a little bit about the history of Visual Basic. You know, VB does have a very rich, long, thick, happy history. What I'm thinking a lot of our developers out there might not know is how many famous people throughout history have both used and endorsed VB. In fact, I think we have a clip of that, don't we?
Did we bring that clip?
We have it?
I could say with a high level of certainty that Visual Basic changed my life. Without Visual Basic, I don't know where I'd be today. And that's no lie.
Many people ask me what they can do to be better Americans. To them, I have one response. Get VB.
I have a long, rich, happy history with Visual Basic and believe that Visual Basic is the Mac Daddy of all developer tools.
I never knew that so many important people actually use VB. That's pretty impressive.
Very, very impressive. So as Jimmy Carter just told you there, we have a very long, rich history with Visual Basic. Back in 1991...
You don't know anything about VB history, let me tell you. I've been evangelizing Microsoft development tools for 11 years now, dating back to the very first version of VB for Windows.
Old school.
Very old school. And if you can think back what development was like before VB came along, development used to be extremely hard. Before a Windows developer could actually create the simplest of Windows applications, they had to understand how Windows worked under the covers.
Had to be one of those C developers, didn't you?
Absolutely. But when VB entered the scene, no longer did you have to actually be a computer scientist to create great Windows applications. You could create them quite quickly by simply combining pre-built components to create your finished application.
So are you telling me that we had this great new form-based paradigm for building software?
Absolutely. This nice event-driven model.
I'll be darned. And that did revolutionize the way we build software. Now, VB has this history of revolutionizing the way we build applications. In fact, with each subsequent release of Visual Basic, got better and better. So version 2 and 3, we got into client-server development.
Did I tell you that whole client-server thing was my idea?
Yeah, sure you did. Thank you, thank you.
I'm telling the truth.
So, version 2 and 3, we had client-server. Version 4, we got into 32-bit based development.
That's 16 more bits.
More bits is good. okay?
Very good.
In version 5, we gave you the ability to create your own controls, all right? So we've got this history of revolutionizing application development. Now, when we built VisualBasic.net, we wanted to do that all over again, okay? One of the main design goals of VisualBasic.net was really RAD for .NET, or Rapid Application Development for the .NET platform.
Hold on.
You're gonna interrupt me again.
Yeah, you're telling these guys about .NET, about the fact that VB can easily design for .NET, but before people can really appreciate that, I think you should probably tell them a little bit about .NET and what that means specifically to the VB guys, because that's who's tuning in here.
Chris, that's a great idea. Chris is my boss, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. So for those of you who have heard about .NET, you've probably been hearing about it for the past year. You've been hearing terms like the web and web services and XML web services. That web thing, it's been in the news a time or two recently, you know? Well, I got news for you. If you've been listening to all that stuff, you don't even got to worry about it, okay? For you, the Visual Basic developer, what the .NET platform means is the ability to solve today's problems more effectively, all right? More productivity, right?
It's more powerful, too. Don't forget to say more power.
More power, more power. Power is good, you know? So we got more power, we got more productivity. It solves a lot of the problems like application deployment. You can build both Windows and web applications. We like to think of VB.NET as being the foundation.
Don't forget mobile applications.
Mobile is good. Mobile is good.
So we really tried to actually strike a good balance between being evolutionary and revolutionary inside of VB.NET.
True.
One of the big questions that current VB developers have is, what about all of my existing code assets? I have a lot of ActiveX controls, I have a lot of COM components, a lot of DLLs. It's important to note that you can continue to reuse those while taking advantage of the new features available in VB.NET.
I'll be darned, that's pretty exciting. In addition, we've infused new levels of power into the language itself with things like inheritance, structured exception handling, free threading. We've got one assignment operator. New is consistent. Legacy constructs have been removed. You now also get full access to the platform, ladies and gentlemen. These are just a few of the powerful new features you get in VisualBasic.NET. But hey, as I said before, we've been babbling too much. Let's go ahead and show them the goods.
Absolutely. But before we do that, there's going to be a lot of new terms and a lot of new phrases that we're going to be talking about throughout the show. So why don't we go ahead and roll that little glossary so that we can sort of get people familiar with the new concept.
Tell you what, man, let's skip that boring glossary crap. I don't know about you. I think I've probably been talking a little bit too much here.
You got that right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Well, bottom line is this. We need to show them the goods. And I think one of the best ways of comparing products, particularly a previous version of VB and the new VisualBasic.NET, is a little feature on the show we like to call Head-to-Head.
Can I help you out with a cold one?
I would love a tall, frosty one. Thank you.
Excellent. We have several tall, frosty ones in here.
Thank you very much there, boss. I appreciate it.
You bet.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you wanted the sex? Here's the sex right here, all right? Now, what we see here is the VisualBasic.NET IDE, all right? Chris, if it's all right with you, I wanted to start off right in the center of the screen with the start page.
Cool, let's do it.
All right, all right. So the start page is something new in VisualBasic.NET, all right? It's a web-based developer portal, which means it provides you with access to a lot of stuff, okay? From the Get Started page, where you can open up new projects or existing projects, we can jump to the online community. The online community is your direct link to MSDN, all right? So you can hook up with other geeks online, all right? We've got a link for downloads, so you can get access to the latest Microsoft downloads. Any in particular you wanted to call out there, boss?
Actually, no.
Where are they?
Yeah. No. Nothing in particular there.
What the boss wanted to say is that we've got a great new beta for you to do mobile development, and you should see that on the download tab very shortly.
Go ahead and show them. Go up to the What's New tab.
Mm-hmm.
And if you scroll down, you can see here we have a lot of new things for the VB developer, including a beta for the smart device extensions, which allows you to program for smart devices.
That's excellent. Very cool. Now, what else does the start page offer? We've got the concept of a profile, right? And the profile is your way of telling the IDE what you want, how you want it, okay? So this provides you with information on how you want your tool windows laid out, if you want a help filter, depending on how you want your keyboard buttons laid out. It gives you access to all this information, okay? So that's a quick intro to the start page. Let's go ahead and jump into a VB.NET application and talk about some more aspects of the IDE.
Wow, there's a number of things in the environment that are quite familiar here to VB6.
Indeed there are. Let's take a look at the toolbox first. As a VB developer, you're already familiar with the toolbox, but you know what? We've made it even better in VisualBasic.NET. First of all, we have more controls. We have more tabs. And as you'll see in a second, you can drag and drop anything onto the toolbox.
Anything?
anything, Chris. That's right. All right, so, tell you what, you've probably heard a lot about how VisualBasic.NET is different from VB6. I want to show y'all how similar it is to VB6. So why don't we go ahead and build a complex application here in VisualBasic.NET. I'm going to slap a little button here onto my form.
That is a nice button.
Why, thank you. I'm going to double click on that button, bring up the code that's going to execute when that button is clicked, and I'm going to delete this right here because, you know what, we don't need that.
We don't need that.
We don't at all.
That was what we call legacy code.
Old legacy code. We don't need that stuff anymore. Thank you, DJ. All right. I'm going to go ahead and type in the canonical message box, and look, folks.
I know that one.
Message box still works. Hello, VBTV. It don't get no better. All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit F5 now. Run this application, and just to prove that this has not been staged, look, there it is, folks. Hello, VBTV. It doesn't get much better than that, does it?
We have changed the world again, haven't we?
Indeed we have.
That is very impressive.
Now, you might have heard about all this stuff called OOP, or Object-Oriented Programming, and how it enables code reuse. Well, I got news for you. You don't even have to worry about it. The only kind of code reuse we need here is toolbox inheritance, my friends. I'm just going to drag and drop a snippet of text over here onto my toolbox under my snippets. That is a customized tab that I created. I can go ahead and rename this to anything that I want. All right?
That is cool.
Very nice, very nice. What else do we have in the IDE for you? Well, we've got a Solution Explorer. This is very similar to the Project Explorer that you had in VB6, but it's better. Probably didn't think that was coming, right? The Solution Explorer in VisualBasic.NET not only gives you access to the files that comprise your application, it also gives you access to the references that your application makes, all right? In addition, if you're working with large projects, you can do multiple projects within a single solution. Those projects don't even have to be created in the same language. Pretty cool stuff, huh? What else have we got? Well, we've got the Properties window. I'm going to go ahead and click back on our form over here. New property that we've got for you here is called Control Anchoring and Docking. VB developers, how many times have you been out there trying to write complex resize code to get the controls on your form to resize as you change the size of the form? Probably a couple of you, right? All right, well, I got news for you. You don't have to do it anymore. I'm simply going to click on that button. I'm going to go over here to Anchor. I'm going to anchor it to all sides of the form. Guess what? When I resize that form...
That is nice.
Yes, very nice. Save you a lot of time and hassle. What else have we got for you? Well, we've got Dynamic Help. There are a lot of great new things in the IDE. How do you learn about them all? Well, with Dynamic Help, help is just a click away, all right? You'll notice that as I click around inside of the IDE, this little tool window over here called Dynamic Help is automatically going to update. So when I click on Solution Explorer, the help topics will update appropriately.
That is great, because a lot of times when I'm playing around with new IDEs, I'm really not even sure what to look up in help. But now it's actually watching what I'm doing for me.
We bring the help to you, folks. It's a thing of great beauty. A couple more things I want to point out. The Server Explorer. Whoa, how did that happen? Let me go ahead and do that again.
Do that again.
Notice as the Server Explorer auto-unhit itself, okay?
Do that again.
One more time?
One more time.
Guy's like a little kid. Hey!
Nice.
Very nice, very nice. Server Explorer in a nutshell is your server-side development console. You can get access to things like event logs, message queues, performance counters, NT services, also known as Windows services, as well as databases. But not only can you access them, you can actually drag and drop them into your application, as I'm about to do here. You want to code against an event log? You got it. There's your event log. It's in your application. You're ready to program against it. What else have we got?
So that, sorry to interrupt you, but that created an object for me that I can program against to access and write to the event log?
Indeed it did, boss. In fact, if I go over to the Properties window here, we can see that we can set a lot of the properties for that event log at design time. We've also got a task list. Now, I know as VB developers, you never put any bugs into your code, right? Well, just in case you do.
I don't.
Yeah, you don't even know VB.NET. All right, so if you get any bugs in your code, you can use a task list to keep track of them all. All right? You can use that task list to do that. You can also keep track of your own code annotations, little notes that you leave to yourself in the code. This is what the task window is for. Last but not least, we finally have macros inside of VB.NET. All I got to do is click Alt F11, and just as you would in Word, Excel, Access, Outlook, or any of those other VBA-enabled applications, you can now create customized code that extends or automates the VisualBasic.NET IDE. Best part of all, you're going to do it using the VisualBasic.NET language.
nice.
Very nice indeed. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a brief tour of the VisualBasic.net IDE. I tell you what, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, it's Betty and Veronica, Big Daddy Mikey Biggs, and of course, your favorite redneck and mine, Visual Bucky and his toothy tips.
Well done. Dave's been working hard. I'm going to go ahead and bring him a soda.
Let's do it.
Nice job, Dave.
This portion of VBTV is brought to you in part by DietVisualBasic.net, with flavors like cherry, grape, vanilla, and new tequila hangover. VisualBasic.net will help you run faster, jump higher, and get more dates. DietVisualBasic.net. Drink it up.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. If you have managed to stick with us this far, it's only going to get better. Tell you what, we've been talking about the design goals of VisualBasic.net. We talked about the history of it. We even saw a cool, sexy little demo.
That was a great demo, by the way.
Well, thanks, Chris.
Well done.
Appreciate it. Why don't we go ahead and talk about the underlying foundation now of our VisualBasic.net applications. And of course, what I'm talking about when I talk about underlying foundation,
It can only be one thing.
that's right, it's the .NET framework.
Yeah. That's right, Dave. The framework.
Now, in a lot of ways, the .NET framework is kind of like that VB runtime that we had in the past. But it's that and a lot more. In fact, why don't we take a look at that framework right now? This is a skeleton picture of the .NET framework. At the lowest level of the framework, in the bowels of the framework, if you will, we've got the common language runtime. That's your execution engine. It permits you to do lifetime management of variables, memory management. It's your execution engine, just like VB Run.
Sounds complicated.
Well, the nice thing about it, Chris, is that you don't need to worry about the .NET runtime or the common language runtime because it's all working in the background. All right? Now, on top of the common language runtime, we've got a plethora of classes that's available to us as VB developers. I like to think of this as a little goodie bag that I can reach into and pull out the class that I want, bring it right into my VB.NET application. What do some of these classes consist of? Well, they're things like file I/O, they're threading, they're data access. Folks, good news. We've got a new data access model for you.
It's about time. I was growing tired of that old data access
No
model.
doubt. We had it for what? I think one version?
Absolutely.
Woo! Yes, so there is a new data access model, and folks, I promise, this time we mean it. It's the real deal. It's ADO.NET. You're going to love it as a VB developer. You get strongly typed programming for data access. It's got a lot of great stuff in there. Now, on top of all this other stuff, what do we need? Well, we need the UI of our applications, right? Well, the .NET framework provides us with classes for both Windows forms and web forms so that we can reuse the skills that we have today to build new types of applications.
So regardless if you're building something for Windows or the web, the programming model is the same?
We got the same paradigm, okay? No doubt.
Can't have enough of the same paradigm.
No doubt, no doubt. So, what else does the .NET framework provide? Well, for those of you VB developers who may have had to work with the Windows 32 API in the past, I've got some good news for you.
I know I did.
Heck yeah. The .NET framework goes ahead and erases your reliance on those Win32 API calls. Well, not exactly erases it, but you're much less reliant on those Win32 API calls.
So many of the functions that you used to call in Windows are now available in the framework itself?
No doubt. And we get direct access to that framework, so we don't need to worry about nasty error handling or H results or things like that. What else does it provide? Well, the .NET framework and the common language runtime provide this nice little thing called a garbage collector. All right? That garbage collector is what allows you to clean up after yourself when you're using objects and things like that inside of your code.
Very important to clean up after yourself.
Indeed.
Always.
Mama always taught me that. Mama always taught me that. So, for a VB developer, what does a garbage collector do? Well, it eliminates an entire host of bugs. Things like circular references, okay? Now, what is a circular reference? Chris, if you don't mind, I'd like to use you for this demonstration here.
Actually, I do mind, but if you feel that you have to, go right ahead.
First of all, Chris, I'd like you to put your hand on me. That's right.
This is not in the script.
That's okay, because I like it. There you go. What you see right here is a circular reference. Isn't that nice?
That's not what we used to call this.
Let's say I'm an object. Let's say Chris is an object, and we're pointing to each other.
Can I take my hand off of you now?
Afraid not.
Now, can I?
Nope, afraid not. Now, we're touching each other. We've got a reference to each other. This is a circular reference. Now, no one else is referencing us. This is a problem, and if you get enough of these circular references, you're going to get application bloat, all right? That doesn't sound good. If you get this application bloat, essentially amounts to a memory leak. It can bring Visual Basic and the entire system to its knees. Well, the garbage collector cleans all that up, so you don't have to worry about circular references. You don't have to worry about Chris and I touching each other here on stage anymore. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, what else does the .NET Framework provide for you? A couple of things, right? Among them, security. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I don't know squat about security. I'm just a VB developer. This is something that, would be nice if it was built into my application, but I don't like to think about it much. How about you? Can you give them the scoop on security?
I wish I could, but I do know that we have somebody here who's fully schooled in security.
Chris, who would that be?
That would be the head. Do you think it's time for the head?
Let's get the head.
All right, how about the head? Let's bring the head. This guy's been gaining some weight.
All right. Well, let's check it out.
Hey, how are you doing, guys?
Good, man. How you doing?
I feel great.
Man,
Looking good.
Oh, yeah, I am great, yeah.
Something different? You've been working out?
Oh, yes, definitely. Look,
Yeah, you can tell, man.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can tell. Hey, I like what you've done with the place. It's smooth.
I
Very
remodeled
nice.
it,
You
man.
got a little
I know.
pad going on there,
Yeah.
don't you?
DVD player, excellent.
Everything,
Nice. Good job.
everything.
Good job.
Very nice. Hey, Head, I tell you what, man, I don't want to waste much of your time, so let's jump right into security, right? I want you to
Security, yeah.
give us a scoop on .NET Framework security from a VB developer's perspective. What does the framework have?
Well, security, very hot topic, very important also for VB developers.
No doubt, no
Any
doubt.
developer.
Yeah, fortunately, the .NET Framework provides a host of security features that developers, VB developers also can use.
Why don't you give me an example of
Okay,
that?
for example, code access security.
What's that?
That is code access security. That means that depending on where your code comes from, the frameworks decides what the code can do.
So in terms that I, as a VB6 developer, understand, like today, for example, I go to a website, maybe there's an ActiveX control on it.
Exactly.
When that ActiveX control comes down, I get the little dialog box that says blah, blah, blah.
And
it's
you
got the
click yes.
Of course, you always
Okay,
click yes.
always click yes. And then what happens? The code can do whatever it wants, right?
Usually wipes out my hard disk, yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
what does code access security allow you to do? Depending on where that code comes from, you can restrict its privileges so that it cannot read the registry, cannot remove files. So
Fascinating.
yeah, very good.
By default, if I don't do anything and code is coming from the internet, is it
Then
safe?
by default it's safe. It doesn't have any privileges.
By the way, folks, we do love ActiveX, but this is even better.
I agree.
Even better. Now, what about role-based security? I've heard this term thrown out. What is it?
Well, that's depending on what the role of the user is. Then you can get, certain permissions to do things or not.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal, really useful.
So if I have several different categories of people using my application, I can give some privileges to one group and other
Of course, so
privileges
for example,
to
you don't want Erik to do everything he wants, right? Because he's going to wipe your hard disk. So, you restrict his privileges.
Area is known for doing that.
Oh, he's, oh yeah.
Anyway, folks, this is really good stuff. Security, normally a dry topic, but Head, you make it very, very exciting.
No,
It's
thank you.
mind-blowing,
Thank you.
folks.
Can I get a drink now?
Well, we'd love to, but we're out of time, and this is kind of a low-budget
Come
show.
on, guys.
Go away.
He'll be all right in there, I think.
This guy's always got the answers.
No
See you later,
doubt.
buddy. That's gonna leave a mark for sure.
Oh, that's gotta hurt.
That definitely's gotta hurt.
He'll be fine, I'm sure. Now let's get on with the show.
So one of the key areas where the .NET Framework really benefits the VB developer is in the area of deployment. And to talk about this critical area and this critical improvement are two of our very own rocket scientists, Betty and Veronica.
Oh, yeah! How y'all doing?
Hey, thanks for coming by.
See you. Thank you.
Very good to see you.
Figured with all that coding, you guys
Always
really
a
wouldn't have a chance to
pleasure.
stop by.
So, how are you guys doing? What
Pretty
can we help
good,
you out
pretty
with today?
Well, I was hoping you could give us a scoop on DLL hell. What is it? Why is it a bad thing? And how does VB.NET solve the problem?
Well, actually, Ari, it's the .NET Framework that solves the problem, not VB.NET. However, since VB.NET was actually built on the .NET Framework, VB developers will benefit from it.
I see.
Let me break it down for you, Ari.
Okay.
Let's say you install a VB application and then 2 weeks later, you install another one. You following me?
I'm with you so far.
But here's where the problem really starts, because the next time you go to run that first app, it doesn't work anymore.
That would be bad?
That would be bad.
Yeah, that's DLL hell, which I'm sure your audience is familiar with. This happens when an app overwrites a shared DLL, or a DLL is not 100% compatible with an old version.
Yes, but fortunately, the .NET Framework fixes this, because .NET DLLs, called assemblies, are self-describing, meaning that you no longer have to register them the same way you had to in COM.
And thank God for that, because .NET assemblies are isolated by default. They're not shared. They're in the same directory as your application, so you don't have to worry about one overwriting another.
Oh, that is fascinating.
Woohoo!
So what you're telling me is, instead of in the olden days where I actually had to create a setup application and give it to my users, now all I have to do is build my application and simply copy it to another machine, and it'll work without registration?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Very, very nice.
I do believe our work here is done.
Thank you, fellas, for having us. Appreciate
will
it.
you be back a little bit later on?
Absolutely. Of course.
Ladies and gentlemen, Betty and Veronica.
Thank you.
My goodness, thank you.
I'm telling you, between the head and those two girls, I think we're going to be out of a job pretty soon.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. So let's just do a quick summary of that deployment that we just heard about. Now, Chris was just telling us a bit about Xcopy deployment. This is where we just take our entire application directory and we copy it onto our client's machine.
Just copy it right on over.
And it runs. Amazing, huh? Now, what else do we have? In the deployment story for .NET, we also have the concept of auto-download. This is essentially making the deployment of Windows applications just as easy as it is to deploy a web application. I just copy my files up to a web server, they download to your machine, run in a secure environment, and automatically clean themselves up. But you know what? But enough of the framework, man. We've been talking too much about the framework. What do you say we talk a bit about the Visual Basic .NET language itself?
Well, that's a great idea. I'm sure a lot of our viewing audience has been hearing a lot about some of the changes that have happened in VB and about how the new VB language is substantially different from what they know. But they'll be happy to know that we've really maintained the soul and the spirit of VB inside of the new VB.NET language. It's still the same human-readable language, so even people like you can still read it.
I'll be darned.
It's still that same case-insensitive language.
I don't even need a shift key anymore, do I?
Shift key or the colon key, for that matter. It still supports optional parameters. We continue to support things like late binding, even automatic
What is that, automatic coercions you trying to say?
Automatic coercions, exactly.
Indeed.
So if you need somebody to do something for you, we have the feature inside of VB to take care of it.
What about things like the basic functions that we're all familiar with, like left and inster, on-error
Inster,
go-to?
mid-string, on-error go-to, I could go on and on. They're all in there.
I bet you could, Chris. Well, I tell you what, in addition to how we've made the language, very similar to VB6, there are also a couple of gotchas you need to know about.
Do we need to cover that?
Are we allowed to? Yeah, let's do that anyway. This is a show about honesty, folks. Let me tell you about some of the changes in the Visual Basic .NET language. Well, first of all, we've modernized the language, okay? We've streamlined it. We've removed some of those legacy features, okay? So these are things like LSET, variant, and of course, your favorite and mine, GoSub. Does anyone out there use GoSub anymore?
I could go for a sub right now.
I bet you could. Maybe one of them Jenny Craig subs. How'd that be? All right. What else do we have? Well, arrays are zero-based in Visual Basic .NET. Okay. We also have strict type checking. As we talked about earlier, a lot of the Win32 APIs have been replaced by the .NET framework. Integer is now 32-bit. These are some of the things that you're going to need to know about when you start programming in Visual Basic .NET.
What about those default properties?
Default properties. Okay, so you can't have parameterless default properties in Visual Basic .NET. That's another one you need to know about. Now, once again, I think that it's time to show the goods.
Time for the goods.
I tell you what, let's go ahead and take a look at a VB.NET language demo.
It's about time. Let's see some code.
All right. Woo. Ladies, you're back. Thank you so much. What do you have here for me? Isn't that nice? Thank you very much. Woo. All right. Well now, let's go ahead and dive into this language demo, all right? Wanted to take a look at several aspects of the Visual Basic .NET language, and to show you, we're going to pop up another one of those snazzy little web browser windows, just like we did before. You ready? Let's go ahead and do it.
It's already up.
All right. So here we are, back inside of the Visual Basic .NET environment.
You are inside of that environment.
Indeed I am, sir. Indeed I am. Now we're looking at some VB.NET code here, and this block of code is going to show off some of the new enhancements that we have in the VB.NET language. The first thing I want to point out here is this import system.math line. Now system.math is a namespace, and you can think of a namespace as being a bucket where you keep a lot of classes. Now compare this to Visual Basic 6. The VB6 runtime was very flat. It was oftentimes very hard to find the information that you needed. Well, with the .NET framework, we have these namespaces that arrange all of those classes and functionality into nice little buckets where you can easily find them. For example, in system.math, guess what I can find in there? Math functionality, that's right. Now, in addition to having access to all of these powerful namespaces inside of the .NET framework, you can also define your own namespaces, as I've done here. So you can create a very rich hierarchy within your Visual Basic .NET application. What else are you going to notice in here? Well, you'll see that I've got a module here, but wait a minute. I've also got a class inside of the same file. And the reason for that is because all files in Visual Basic .NET have that nice little .vb extension. So you can put multiple modules and classes into a single file. Very, very handy. You'll notice on this line here, I'm dimming try as a triangle. But wait, on the same line, I'm also initializing the value of that triangle. So we can initialize variables on the same line as we declare them.
Submarine.
Visual Basic developers out there, how many of you have wanted to write a console command line application, but it's been too tough in the past? Not anymore with Visual Basic .NET. We've got our console.write line here. That's how easy it is to write out to that console window. But wait, there's more. Watch as I scroll down here. We've got 3 variables all being declared on the same line. Dim A, B, and C as integer. In VB.6, what would that give you? That's right, an integer and 2 variants. Not what we want, right? In Visual Basic .NET, this problem is solved. It only took us about 11 years to get there, but we are finally there.
Wait, what if that's really what I did want?
Well, then you would be,
Fired.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fired is good.
So this is a new feature in Visual Basic .NET. You dim A, B, and C as integer, you actually get 3 integers, folks. What else have we got? Well, we've got the concept of constructors. Now, what is a constructor? Well, when I dim up a new instance of something, the constructor is the code that runs when I do so. Now, we've got a couple of things that we can do here. We can create a blank constructor that'll just allow me to create a new instance of the object, or we can create a constructor with parameters to it. This allows me to instantiate an object and pass some properties to it all at the same time. We still have that great late binding that we've always known in Visual Basic in the past, right? I can declare a variable here. I can set it to a variable statement, so we're late binding to that information. Pretty sexy, huh? We've also got the return statement. Now, in the past, if you create a function, you have to do that messy little line at the bottom, function name equals, and then the return value. What happens then if you change the name of your function? You're screwed, right?
Nothing good.
Nothing good can come from this, but not anymore, right? With the return statement, I can simply return the information that I want using a nice, easy-to-use statement. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a quick demonstration of the Visual Basic .NET language. One other thing I wanted to show you briefly is this region here. This is a code region. You'll notice that I just collapsed all of the shape classes into a region that I defined. It's another way that enables you to keep track of your code, particularly in large projects. So that is the Visual Basic .NET language. Chris, back to you.
Well, I am the executive producer of the show, so we can easily work you into a future episode. Oh, I gotta go. Well, it's time for a break. Up next, we have one of the most exciting segments of the entire show, Visual Bucky's Toothy Tips. So stay right here. Don't leave your seats. Don't leave your desks. Don't leave your PCs. Don't touch that mouse. We'll be right back.
Friends, how many times has this happened to you? You're building an application in Visual Basic when you realize that the control you're looking for isn't there. Well, don't let it happen again. With Infragistics' new Net Advantage suite, enhanced user interfaces are just a drag and drop away. The vast array of controls for both Visual Basic .NET Windows applications and web applications will take your VB.NET apps to the next level. Chris?
That's exactly right, Ari. In fact, Infragistics packed so many controls into this Infragistics Net Advantage suite that they had to ship it to us in this 4-foot box.
Ooh.
Net Advantage Suite includes grids, charts, calendaring, scheduling, toolbars, menus, tabs, Outlook controls, everything that you need to create great front ends to your applications.
Net Advantage is perfectly suited for today's VB developer moving to VisualBasic.net. You know, I use Net Advantage Suite every day, and I love it. It's enabled me to be a better programmer. I no longer have bad breath, my foot odor's gone away, and I'm now dating a German supermodel.
Really?
No, but they do have some great controls. Now, the man with the $1 million smile, it's time for Visual Bucky and his toothy tips. Hi, how are y'all doing? My name is Bucky, and I'm a Visual Basic developer. Keep it down now, I'll be back there in a second. Now, today I'm gonna learn y'all about something called the string builder. That's S-T-R-I-N-G builder, string builder. Now, where might you use a string builder, you might be asking yourself. I'll tell you. If you're going to be doing a lot of string if you're going to be changing strings a lot, you might want to use a string builder instead of a regular old string. Now, the reason for this is because using strings and changing them a lot can be slow sometimes. This is because strings are what they call immutable. Now, immutable is a term that I learned the third time I took my GED. Still trying to pass it, by the way. Anyhow, immutable means that each time you change a string, you're not actually changing it. And you're probably saying, Bucky, I change strings all the time. Well, I got news for you, boy. You ain't. In fact, what's happening is that each time you change that string, it's actually being destroyed and then recreated with the new value. Now, that can get real slow. String builder, on the other hand, alleviates this problem and makes your makes changing a string a lot easier and faster. If I dim my string as string builder, it's going to make my life a lot easier. Now, you remember what that fella earlier was telling you about namespaces? Well, you can find string builder in the system.text namespace. String builder also includes helpful methods for you to help manipulate strings. This includes methods such as insert, append, remove, and replace. I'm Bucky, and that was my toothy tip of the day. Back to y'all. Thanks, Bucky. Nice mullet. Whew. All right. I'll tell you what, why don't we get back to the show, talk about a subject that I know is near and dear to many of our developers' hearts. That is the types of projects that you can build with VB.net. Why don't you give us a rundown on how the projects you see in VisualBasic.net compare to those that we're going to see, or that we saw in VB6?
Sure. Well, many of the things that you've created in VB6, you can still create in VB.net, but we've changed some of the names.
I see.
So in the past, when you created a standard Windows executable, that's now called a Windows application. ActiveX DLLs, class libraries.
Got it.
ActiveX controls, Windows control libraries.
Straightforward enough.
When you go to create IIS applications, look for an ASP.NET web application.
Interesting. Of course, you've also got things like add-ins, right? We always had add-ins in VB6. We also have add-ins in VisualBasic.net. The difference is that you have a much bigger object model to program against.
How much bigger?
Well, in VB6, you had about 12 objects. VisualBasic.net, check this, 200 objects.
No way!
Oh, yeah, yeah. Now, above and beyond that, we've got things like ASP.NET Web Service applications. In a nutshell, this is just like a component that you can build and call remotely.
Over the internet?
No doubt. Okay, what else do we have? We've got console applications, right? We've got Windows services. We've got web control libraries. And, of course, you can't forget good old MIT. That's the Microsoft Mobile Internet Toolkit. That's a mobile application that renders on various devices.
And now it's time for the portion of the show that we affectionately call Big Daddy's Power Demo.
Yeah. He's been locked up downstairs drinking coffee and Diet VB Nectar for the past 48 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Big Daddy Mackie B. Woo-hoo-hoo. Oh my goodness. Big Mike, how you doing? All right.
All right, Ari.
How you doing, man?
Doing good. I'm feeling good.
All right, good. Mike, what do you have to show us today?
Well, I'm really excited about VisualBasic.net. I'm going to show Visual Basic developers how they have the power and the productivity to build the most incredible Visual Basic applications.
So what kind of apps are we going to build here today?
I'm going to build 3 applications today. I'm going to build a Windows Form application that's going to access a middle tier component. I'm going to build a web application using the same code to access that same middle tier component. And then I'm going to build a mobile application for broad reach devices like cell phones and palms.
Mike, 3 applications. How long will that take?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? I don't believe it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, I got the IDE open here. I'm going to hit New Project. I'm going to bring up a new project application here and pick Windows app.
So this is the Windows app that VB developers already know and love.
It's the same one. It feels and looks just like Visual Basic 6. I've got my toolbox over here, my Solution Explorer. I've got my dynamic help down here to help me out as I program.
That's great.
So I'm going to come over here and I've got a default form that's going to come up.
Alrighty.
And I'm going to...
There's that form.
There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and drag a data grid onto here. And I'm going to go ahead and dock that data grid.
What is docking, Mike?
Well, you know how you used to write that resize code, so when you move the form, you'd have to resize all the controls so it would look right?
I do know what you're talking about.
Well, you don't have to write any more code. You just select the control, go to dock property, and we'll just dock it for the whole form.
That's
and
amazing.
Now, when I select the form and I resize it, it'll automatically resize that data grid.
That's great stuff.
All right, so let's access that middle tier component. VB developers are very used to adding references to COM components and to controls.
Sure.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and add a web reference.
So what's a web reference, Mike?
Well, it's a reference in your application that references this XML web service.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a method, basically, that's exposed as XML, and I can go ahead and access that.
Sounds great.
It's easy. It's easy as pie, Ari.
So this is just like referencing any other component. The only difference is this is sitting on a web server somewhere, right?
Exactly, Ari. And it could be through firewalls on the internet somewhere, all the way across the world. It doesn't matter. I can still program against it like it was a local component.
That's beautiful.
All right.
That's right.
Well, let's go ahead and throw an in-place menu editor up there. Let's just go ahead and drag this onto our form.
An in-place menu editor. Now, I'm used to the old VB6 menu editor. That's a real pain in the patootie.
Yeah, well, that's old school, Ari. This is new school. This is the way you do it. You just go ahead and edit it right here live. So we'll just say get data.
Amazing.
And now what we do is we'll just click on this and we'll go ahead and get the data behind it.
This is indeed very new school.
Right. And I've got a little code snippet here, only 2 lines of code. I'm going to dimension DS as a new instance of that web service.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to set my data grid data source equal to that method ds.getAuthors that was generated by the web service.
It looks pretty simple.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and run it, Ari? Let's just hit F5. That's as easy as it is.
Now that's an entire application written in about 2 minutes.
Well, probably 1 minute and 40 seconds, but sure. Let's go ahead and hit the data button, and the data is going to come back from that middle tier component, that web service, and bam, there it is.
There it is. Very nice. 1 application down. How many do you go?
2 more. Let's go ahead and build a web application. So
I'm getting excited.
Bring up another instance of the IDE. We're going to go ahead to ASP.NET web application.
Now, Mike, I'm a VB developer today. I don't know how to build web apps.
All right, you're a web developer now.
How do you figure?
Because building a web application is just like building a Windows application.
I
There's
don't
really
believe
nothing
it.
new to learn.
I don't believe it. Show me.
Well, let me show you. You know, when you've got a form up here, you're used to dragging and dropping things onto that form.
Mm-hmm.
So if I come over here, I can drag a data grid and I can drag it onto that form.
Now, this is just like the data grid on our Windows form?
It's the same one. So you can basically just resize that and you can move it around your form. Now, here's the HTML that you're probably thinking about building web applications, but you never need to touch that.
Sure.
So what if we wanted to change some properties in here? You're used to doing designers, so if we right mouse click here, we can go to the auto format and pick one of the colorful professional one, for instance, and now we've got a nice.
That's amazing.
All right. So we can do a bunch of other things with properties, etc., but let's go ahead and add that web reference again. So adding the web reference is exactly like adding the web reference to the Windows application. We simply just select it, we click on the Add Reference button, and now we've added a reference to that web service, that middle tier component that's going to bring back data from SQL Server into our applications.
This is great.
So now let's double click on our form. The code behind, this is the same VB.NET code you use in Windows form, it's the code behind the web HTML form.
Now wait a second, Mike. In the past, when I used, say, Visual InterDev, I would be writing code in VB script. Is the same hold true here?
No, this is true VB.NET. This is the core language, the only VB.NET that's in Visual Studio.NET.
You get the full power of the Visual Basic.NET programming language behind your web applications?
100% full, Ari. You get it all.
That's great.
So let's go ahead and grab that same code snippet. What's even more interesting is the same code that works in a Win form basically works in a web form.
So we've got the same type of object model for Windows apps and web apps.
That's right, Ari. There's not really a lot you have to learn here. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to have to add an extra line of code because of the way the web works, and I'm going to have to bind that code to that form, but that's not too much to learn.
One more line of code. 3 lines ain't bad.
Let's go hit F5 again, and we'll go ahead and run that application.
Now, what does it mean to run a web application? What's happening here?
Well, I'm simply just copying those files over to the web server, and I'm simply hitting it with my browser.
Automatically fires an instance of Internet Explorer.
That's right. I just hit that webform.aspx, and that code behind was compiled into the DLL, and there's my HTML.
I didn't need hearing in that ear anyway. That's great.
Let's build one more, Ari. Now, this is probably one of the more exciting things that developers get to do.
I'm so excited already. I can't imagine anymore.
Well, there's a lot more, Ari. You know, VB developers now are Windows service developers, web service developers, web form developers, but there's a whole class of applications that await a VB developer.
What class of applications is that?
That's the mobile world, Ari. That's where people have cell phones and devices, smart devices and Palm Pilots, and they want applications to run off of their applications servers.
Interesting. So how do we do this? Is it a completely different paradigm for doing this?
Well, there's a project template called Mobile Web Form, and I just selected it, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to go over here. Now, I don't have a data grid here, but what I have is an object list, and I'm just going to drag that over to my design surface.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm going to go back and add a web reference to my web service.
And again, this is the same process as we saw before.
It's the same, and that's why, because we built .NET and Visual Studio from the ground up, we gave it all the same look and feel, so now you can be a productive developer.
Visual Basic developers have more power than ever.
This was architected and designed to be productive right off the bat.
Wow.
So now that I've got that in there, I can go ahead and double click on that form. I've added the web reference, and in this page load, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to add that same code that we did for the Windows form and the web form.
I don't believe it.
Now look at that squiggly. It's telling me that I don't have a data grid object on my form.
That looks like trouble.
And all I'm going to do is just change that to object list 1.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to add that data bind.
Looks like that squiggly went away.
That's right. And I'm just going to say object list 1 dot data bind. Boom. And then we'll hit F5.
Writing code has never been so fun.
This is easy. Now what's nice about this is that when your device hits this website, whether you have a Nokia phone or whether you have a StarTAC phone, it'll render the right HTML for that device.
So what we're seeing here is actually HTML code that's coming back. Now what if I wanted to test it out on an actual device?
Well, let's do that. Let's go down here and pull up a Mobile Explorer, which is just an emulator for a typical phone. In this case, it looks like kind of a Motorola StarTAC phone.
Right.
Now what we need to do is we need to grab that URL. So let's go ahead and for that mobile application that we just built, when we actually run it, we want to grab the URL that gets generated.
Okay.
Now, so I don't have to type that in there. I'll just go ahead and copy it, and I'll drag that over to the Mobile Explorer.
Okay.
And let me just bring that up.
Great.
And I'll copy it into the URL.
So this is going to emulate what it would be like if a cell phone were to hit this mobile application.
That's right, and there you go.
Unbelievable. Do you have anything else you can show me right now?
Well, you know, one of the things that is interesting about a phone is that it can't handle the same amount of data as say, an HTML browser.
Sure.
Rich experience in the IE.
Yeah.
So we want to go ahead and paginate that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my development environment here.
Sounds like you're going to have to write a lot of code.
No, actually, I'm going to write no code at all. We don't have time to write a lot of code in today's fast-paced world. I'm going to select the form, and I'm going to pick a property here called paginate.
No.
Yep. And I'm going to go ahead and build and browse that application. And I'm going to select that URL, just like I did before, and I'm going to go back to my little Mobile Explorer here and show you how it looks now.
I see.
And I'm going to right mouse click here and hit paste. I'm going to paste that URL right into the Mobile Explorer.
Okay.
And look at that.
There's a next button there.
That's right. And when you click on it, you go to the next page, and now you can go back and forth. So now you can paginate automatically on any device.
Automatic pagination. Do you believe it, folks? Wow. Mikey Biggs, once again, you have done it.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you for coming by, my friend.
Baby.
All right, now get out of here. Get out of here. All right, so, hey, Ladies, what is going on over here? We got to do phone calls. Hey. Folks, check it out. Don't move. Stay right there. We're coming back with phone fun.
Yeah, we're to get head to go for cocktails.
Try the new .NET Dog from VB Meats. Nothing fresher. The .NET Dog. That's one fresh dog.
What a band. We have spared no expense here.
I know that's right.
Well, now it's time for our favorite segment of the show, Phone Fun.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want? I'm busy.
All right, let's go to the phones. You have someone on line 1?
Hi, caller.
Hey, Chris and Ari. Love your show.
Thanks.
Hey, so I'm thinking about buying VB.NET, and I'm wondering, can this thing upgrade my existing VB6 code?
It's a great question. So, as long as you buy Visual Studio.NET Professional, Enterprise Developer, or Enterprise Architect, it comes with the Visual Basic.NET upgrade tool that'll take your existing VB6 code and upgrade it to Visual Basic.NET. Next caller.
Yeah, my name is Scott, and I'm a C++ developer, and
Ooh.
I think we had a little problem there. Must be a cell phone.
Ooh, dang cell phones.
I hate when. Hopefully he'll call back.
No doubt. Moving right along. Next caller.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi.
Hello, am I on?
Yes, indeed.
Hey, hi, long-time viewer, first-time caller.
Hey, all right.
Hey, so I got VB6 Pro right now. Where can I find VB.NET Pro, eh?
In the world of .NET, there actually is just Visual Studio.NET Pro. So that'll be the one that you're looking for. We have another caller.
Hi, I was wondering what the system requirements are to run Visual Basic.NET.
Great question.
That is a great question. They're not really that bad. Not bad at all.
First, you need a computer.
True. Hey?
A mouse and a keyboard.
This will help. Above and beyond that, what you're going to be looking for is a P2, Pentium 2 running at about 450 megahertz.
That's a lot of megahertz.
Indeed it is. Megahertz is good. What else you're going to need? Well, you're going to need some memory, right? Get a little bit of memory tossed in there, you'll be fine. In terms of an operating system, Windows NT 4.0 and above to develop with Visual Studio.NET, Windows 98 and above to actually run an application that was built with Visual Basic.NET. And of course, there's that whole hard disk thing. It's not that bad. It's what, about 3 gigs? Not a problem, eh? That 3 gigs actually includes all of MSDN. So, fair bit of disk space, but hey, disk space is cheap today, right?
And it'll be worth it.
No doubt. All right, next caller.
Yo, how you guys doing? Are you there?
Yes, caller, please.
Sure, we're here. I got a question to ask you guys.
Okay.
Now, can I run VB6 and Visual Basic.NET? You know, like side by side, or what?
Should we? I think we should let the head handle this one.
Head, you want to answer that?
Okay, if you would read the manual, you would see that it's simple. You meathead, get a life.
I guess that's about all the time we have today. Is that about it? I think that's about all the time we have today. Head, you want to say goodbye to everyone?
Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
See you later, man.
All right, well, that was a fantastic show.
No doubt. Ooh, all right. So
He'll be fine.
He'll be all right. Now, what did we see today? Well, we got an introduction to Visual Basic.NET, right? We talked about the language, the framework. We saw a couple of cool demos. We met some very interesting people. Thanks again to Bucky. And that's
great,
about, he's not a bad guy.
He's awesome.
He's all right.
Gonna go places.
And I do like the mullet. No doubt. So, Chris, where can folks go for more information?
Check out our website, msdn.microsoft.com/vbasic.
There you'll find all the information you need on Visual Basic.NET. We've got some good recommended reading on there. And if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you like the show, if you think it sucks,
go ahead and email us, vbtv@microsoft.com.
No doubt. So MSDN is a great resource. I wanted to thank our sponsors, Infragistics, once again. We love the .NET show, too. You guys are great. And, of course, last but not least, folks, go out there, buy the product, try the darn thing out. And assuming that we don't get fired from this,
a big assumption,
big assumption, we will see you next time on VBTV. We are out of here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
we are
you.
out of here.
All right.